Hello there, and welcome to Candid Coach Conversations. I'm Kimberly Boyd, founder of Live Life Fully, and today I have with me my dear friend and certified Live Life Fully coach, Amanda Kaufman. Hey, Amanda.
Hi, Kimberly.
I'm so glad you're here with us today. Is it raining where you are?
It was this morning. We're kind of having like Texan rain, like it's like Armageddon kind of rain and then perfectly sunny a few hours later. It's
Oh
awful.
my gosh. Okay, so talking about that Armageddon rain. So, we had all those amazing 20-something-year-olds. I mean, like literally, they were so awesome. We had not met everybody before. And so it was an awesome group of human beings at our house from Thursday. And then the last two left today. Anyway, you want to talk about every bed full. I bought some cots that had mattresses on them. We were to the brim. So much fun. Anyway, it was celebrating Meredith's birthday, as you know. Anyway, so much fun. Well, our boat was not working, and we found that out 4th of July weekend. It would turn on and start, put it in the water, and it would just turn off. So, well, it started, but when you put it in gear, that's the word, not the water. But put it in gear, the boat stopped. So the boat people, our friend, people who sell boats, they came out, sent some guys out here. They were like, well, we're going to have to pull it out of the water. So they towed it wherever they towed it and took it into the shop. And then they called us and we knew we were having a boat jet ski day all day on Saturday. So long story short, our boat was not going to be ready in time. It's something with the computer chip thing. I don't know, above my head. So anyway, this man was like, I know this is important to you and I think your daughter's amazing. I'm going to let you borrow my boat. Okay. What? Anyway, let us borrow his boat. So here we are Saturday. So I cooked every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, very intentional with my time. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And today I'm like, y'all are on your own. The day with the least amount of people, I'm like, I'm not cooking. But so I am served breakfast Saturday. And while all those kiddos, I say kids, young adults were eating, I start making all these sandwiches. 42 made to order sandwiches. Anyway, so I'm making the sandwiches. Andrew walks up behind me and he goes, honey, we have got to get on the water. And I'm like, I know. It's 10:45 in the morning. I'm like, I know. And he goes, no. There's a storm brewing. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah. If we're going out on the water, we got to get out there and get back. And I'm like, all right. Now it was sunny at our house. We are all loaded up on that boat, all 42 sandwiches, 900 bags of chips. All the coolers are full. Load up on the jet skis, 3 on each one. Boat, every seat is packed. And we are out of here. We are headed to Pine Island. Amanda, you want to talk about Armageddon rain? The radar was off by a couple of hours. Skies turned dark. And yeah, big storm. Now all the kids are in the water. They're playing frisbee. They're throwing the ball. They met up with some other people that were out there. They're playing volleyball. And I'm telling you, that rain was coming down so hard. I thought it was hailing. It was hitting us so it was coming sideways. So everybody's up underneath the boat, underneath the tomb, trying to stay dry and to not get injured by the raindrops. Anyway, super fun. And I have no idea what got me there. Oh, because you said Armageddon rain. Yeah. Which also takes me to what I wanted to talk to you about today. So the storm passes, a couple hour and a half later, being pummeled by rain. And we've never stayed out in a storm before. I'm like, we've got all these people out here that we're responsible for. Oh my gosh, they're going to have bruises from these raindrops hitting so hard. Anyway, everybody survived. It was super fun, even though it was raining. And then suddenly the sun just pops out and it was sunny the rest of the day, like it had not rained a drop. All that to say is it takes me to what I wanted to talk to you about today, which is intentionality. And kind of sprinkled that word in earlier because I was so super intentional about my time all last week, even about how much intentional about the time I was going to dedicate to place the grocery order for all that food. But I wanted to talk I want to talk to you about intentionality. And I want to know, Amanda, what does that word mean to you?
Intentionality. Well, a good life, I think, is lived somewhere in between responding and reacting to the situation and having some kind of an intentionality. So when I was a lot younger, I was very much very spontaneous, very reactive, very responding to what life was handing me. And I thought that life was kind of happening out there, and then the quality of your life was based on the circumstances you found yourself in. And to me, intentionality is this activation of, well, what's your agency in all of that? Because it's so true that like the crazy storm, there's nothing you can do about that really, except for your intentions around your thinking, your intentions around like, hey, we got to keep these not kids, young adults, but okay, I hear you, kind of kids safe. You're like, we're responsible for so many people. And when I think about what makes people pretty miserable in life is when they have a really strong intention for how things are supposed to go. And God, universe, whatever, is like, hey, what's up? And it gives you something else. And that inflexibility to deal with the suck or sometimes even good stuff. Like there's a lot of people that they'll get a surprise, like a birthday party surprise, and they're like, I hate surprises. And I'm like, okay, that's one way you can live your life. But I think intention is it's really connected to engagement, like really engaging with your life. And when we talk about living life more fully, like to me, intention is a massive part of it. Yeah. And it's not about getting what you want all the time. I think that's where people get a little squirrely on that one.
And I love
Yeah.
that. What popped up for me, Amanda, is whatever it is in the situation, the storm, the life, whatever happens, is like really identifying, okay, so this is the situation. And now what? Rather than the doom and gloom, party's over, I'm going to
Yeah.
be mad.
Exactly. How dare it rain? We live in Texas, y'all. When it rains big because that's where we live.
Yes, indeed. Well, so 2 years ago on Meredith's birthday, golly, we had a big day planned, and that Hurricane Beryl, or however you say the name, came through and took out a bunch of stuff on our property. And a big branch fell on my husband's arm. He was going to move the tree. In case there was an emergency, he was going to go move a tree off the driveway so we'd be able to get out. So he's on the tractor. And as he's moving these big trees out of the way, another one, big, huge branch falls and gets his arm. And I'm like, well, I'm glad you were trying to make a way out because now you've made the way in for the ambulance that has to come get you. So that was 2 years ago. So this year, when that first raindrop and the big claps of thunder, Meredith goes, is it going to rain every year on my birthday? And I'm like, okay, that might be a little dramatic. And she's like, you know what? It is what it is. Let's get in the water, y'all. So they all start jumping off. But yes, she had that quick mindset shift, being intentional. This is the situation. I'm going to make the best of it, and jumped right on in.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear about the arm. That's awful. And I think it's also a really good demonstration of intention, right? Like a really what is that saying? Like good intentions pave the way somewhere awful. And I think like intention's not probably enough because obviously you've got to respond to the situation and the cards that you're dealt. And you're so right, like how Meredith changed her mind. So often like people treat bad news or just even not my preference news, honestly, as being this very long lasting, never changing situation. And I hear this a lot with people when they're like, oh, this always happens to me. This always happens to me. Or I never get this. And a lot of like this black and white thinking. And intention can be such a really powerful tool for creating a life where you live more fully. So like I'm thinking about like career, for example.
Mm.
I started my career with pretty basic intentions. I'm like, hey, I want to make more money than maybe more people that I know, and I'd like to do something that's going to challenge and stimulate me, and I want it to feel worth it. Very broad intention. And then I got going down the path. And as I went down the path, I started to get more clarity about what was I actually good at versus what I thought I was good at. What
Yes.
was really interesting versus kind of interesting. And as I go, I'm getting more and more of this clarity. And it caused me to revise my intentions and to realize and recognize that it's like, well, we're not just in a job to make money forever. I mean, that's obviously a pretty important responsibility we all have. And there's so many ways to add value in the world, and there's so many ways to do that. So when I got clearer about like, hey, the intention behind my career, for example, isn't just a paycheck. It's this sense of impact and this desire. Here's what I realized is work represents at least 2/3 of your waking hours, at least.
Right.
And so many people just tolerate a job because they think, well, again, that reactionary respondent thing. It's like, well, this is all that's available around here. Well, for someone like me, I get something like this. And there's just like all this narrative about it. And it's true that it's probably going to require effort and change in order to shift that circumstance. And not everything you try is going to work out. And without that intention, then you're just kind of doomed. And so for me, even though I was in a really good job, a good career for a long time, it became less good because it was falling out of an alignment with what I was really valuing at that juncture of my life. And what I
Yeah.
realized was the reason I wasn't making a change is because I had a major gap in my skills. I didn't know how to sell. I didn't know how to market. I didn't know how to run a business. I had this vision. Okay, I had this idea when I was starting my business of forming an LLC and getting the paperwork in order was such like something out of the second half of Law and Order. And there's going to be a big judge in a trial, and it's going to, I'm going to have a fancy lawyer and all this kind of stuff. And you're laughing at me, rightly so, because I didn't know. I had no idea. So my brain just like references, yeah, the series that I watched growing up. Yeah, Kung Kung. Yes. So I share all of that, that we don't know. Like when we're going after a new goal, the intention is kind of like that compass that points us in a direction. And so eventually I realized there were like perfectly good websites online that would help you with this process. I remember my first business, I formed it while I was breastfeeding my baby, who's like 9 now. And I got it done in 45 minutes. And if you know much about motherhood at that stage, that is very sleep deprived. I was able to get it done.
Right.
No lawyers, no judges. Just
No.
paperwork.
Be my new thing.
Yeah. So yeah, I could wax poetic about intentionality. I think at the end of the day, it's almost like that decision you make in advance about what you'd like how you'd like something to turn out or how you'd like to show up to a situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Oh my gosh, wholeheartedly. And I don't know that people think of it like that. Like we're certainly not taught as children to think about the outcome or the desired outcome and how we want things to go before we actually start. I don't think we're
If you
taught that.
think about this, and I thought about this, we're trained from a very young age to value other people's opinions more than
Yes.
our own.
Yes.
And I call them OPOs.
Yes.
OPOs. And like other people's opinions are actually important. Like there's a reason that we are raised that way. And what I would suggest is that it's important, but it's also not the only thing. And if you live your life according to everybody else's opinion of what your life is supposed to look like, that to me is the path to feeling very misaligned, very dissatisfied, very, you can actually have, this is mind blowing, but you can have a huge amount of success on paper and not feel fulfilled and not have any like meaning in
Right.
what you're doing. And like I said, it's 2/3 with the career thing. It's like 2/3 of your life force. And some people, it's like that's A-okay. Like they're okay with going through the motions on that part of it and living life to the fullest in the other third. And that's a strategy and you can totally do that. And I think what really matters is that you have intention behind that and that you're not feeling this sensation of almost like a victimhood of, well, this, I was living up to other people's expectations. I was living up to society's expectations. I was living up, I never had time to think about what I actually want. I'm like, well, no one's going to hand you that time.
Right.
That takes intention.
It does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, in thinking about intention and thinking about starting a business, because you, while breastfeeding, completed the forms for your LLC.
Which, by the way, does not make me Wonder Woman, a wonderful woman, but not Wonder Woman, Like that should tell you how not hard it is, not how crazy I am.
Yeah. So if somebody did want to start a business, a side hustle even, maybe they're not going to replace their entire career. They want a side hustle. How can they get more intentional? Like what are some things you would suggest?
My gosh. Okay. So the first thing I would say is break up with this idea that it all has to be hard at all times.
Amen.
Just break up. Like just don't call, don't text each other. Just break up with it,
Yeah.
You know
Hello,
what
hard. I am breaking up with you today.
Exactly. Here's the real truth. Did you know that everyone who ever makes money ever is in business? It's just some of us decided to sell 100% of our available hours to one buyer.
Right.
So that's what it means to be employed, right? So as if I was working in any job, I'm essentially saying I will sell you my waking hours and focus, and in exchange, I will abide by your employee handbook. I'll follow your policies, I'll follow your processes, I'll do what you ask in exchange for the pay and the benefits. That's business, baby, right? That's business. So but I know that's probably not what people mean, but the reason why I think that's a really important distinction is because if you realize that you're already in business, you're already doing it, it takes so much of the sting out of the complexity. Because, if there's one thing that entrepreneurs like to talk about is how hard it is. It's like our favorite. We love talking about how hard it is. And there's parts of it that are hard, but aren't there things about your job that are hard? Aren't there things about your family that are hard? Like, hard's not real to me. Like, it's so relative, and it's really not a defining characteristic of whether you do the thing or don't do the thing.
Right.
If you want to start a business, it really is actually this simple. Talk to people who want to think. And I think something like 68% of businesses in the United States, small businesses, are services. So the thing is probably going to be selling your time to do something based on your expertise. It could be a productized thing, or maybe it's a blend of those things. But the way I think of it is, what is a problem that someone else has that you're happy to solve?
Yes.
And for pay, right? Like, you're happy to be paid to solve that thing. And that's it. In terms of actually transacting and being compliant and all that kind of stuff, yes, you form an entity, typically like an LLC, depending on the business that you're going into and all of that. Those details could shift and change, but by and large, it's a very simple sole proprietorship, registering with the state that you live in, registering with the federal government to get an EIN number. And what that lets you do is it lets you open a bank account. Once you have a business bank account, you need a way to collect money. So very typically, you're going to sign up with something like a Stripe, a PayPal, a Square. And what that allows you to do is it makes it easier to buy from you, essentially, at the end of the day, is because you can say, is that Visa or MasterCard, right? And once you got that going, really the rest of the business, like for the rest of the business's life, it's asking people, do you want this?
Yes.
And then for the people who say yes, you sell it to them.
And I love that you
That's it.
talked about jobs also because, well, so many things popped up for me. I love that you talked about jobs, like you're already agreeing to sell your time, because I do talk with people when I'm coaching people. For example, a teacher. When I'm working with a teacher and she's talking about the rules and the regulations, she or he, about the rules and regulations of the state, of the district, and all the things that come with that, I'm like, okay, so like you're the CEO of your classroom. Like, even though you have these people above you or the state or whatever above you, you still are the CEO of your classroom. That's one thing that helped me every day. Like, I remind myself, I'm the CEO of my life, and I can get really intentional about the time that I spend on my Live Life Fully company, on my counseling center, on the time with my friends. Like, I'm the CEO of my life, no matter what I'm doing.
It's a fact. That's one of the reasons I adore you, right? Is because you do get that. And I think, what we're really talking about is this idea of agency.
Yes.
And, when you have agency, it basically means that you know that you can make a decision here. And when people are the most miserable, at least as I've noticed in our society here in the United States and maybe in Canada, I can't speak to cultures beyond, but in our culture for sure, the most miserable people are the ones who do not feel free. But I think the problem is that they have an interesting idea about what freedom really is. You do have freedom, and that freedom is to make a new choice. Now, do you like your options? Maybe you don't. Are you feeling like your life is operating according to your preferences? Probably not. Like, when I'm thinking about when somebody's feeling very constrained, like I used to work in corporate America, and I did not like the reporting. It was not my favorite. I did not like some of the posturing and things that we have to do, in corporate culture. Like, those kinds of things, like, were not my preference.
Right.
But let's be very clear. That does not make them bad. That just means that I did not prefer to spend my time in that way. I did prefer to spend my time in other ways. And so then I made a choice and I chose a more entrepreneurial route for my career. That doesn't mean that it's bad to choose corporate or bad to go bureaucratic, but it is a choice. It's still a choice. And the question is, are you activating agency and saying, yes, I'm here because my intention is to use my life force to accomplish A, B, and C. And because I am deciding to do so, CEO of my life, right? Or leader of my life, whatever resonates for you. Therefore, yeah, there's going to be some compliance stuff. There's going to be there's no such thing as a life without suffering. So maybe for the choices that you're making, there's a certain kind of suffering you're inviting in, and it's not because it's your preference. It's not because you even enjoy it. It's not even we could debate the politics and all of that kind of stuff all day long. But when you remember your intention behind the reasons that you chose this path,
right,
you can appreciate A, the path you're on, but B, you can also recognize your capacity, your agency to choose a new path.
Yes. And I think that's one of the things I love so much about coaching. And when I say that, I mean about me being coached by my coach. And when I'm working with people as their coach, is that these new realizations and these ahas and unlocks occur through coaching. And I love it because yes, there's choice like you were talking about. And sometimes for me, I may not like the compliance that it's in front of me, even on my own health journey. There's things I have to be compliant with that are not my favorite. And it is a choice I make to do it so that I can remain alive. And then also if I think that I'm truly stuck, if I get in that of, the state says this or whatever it is, and I don't have any options. I have no choice. I have to do it this way. When I start thinking like that, I'm like, okay, Kimberly, what's a reframe? What's a new thought that will serve me better and the people that I'm working with?
Absolutely. One of my favorite techniques when I fall into that, because look, we're all human beings. We have reasons we default to this thinking. It is cognitively way easier, emotionally way easier to assign blame outside of ourselves.
Absolutely.
That's totally the reason why we do that. And so my favorite technique, really, for real, when I'm feeling like I have no choice and there's no options and I'm screwed, then I eat a sandwich. Because so often the issue for me is physiological. I'm literally I got low blood sugar. I didn't sleep good last night. Had an argument with my spouse or something like that took me off my game, and I'm a little off center or whatever. So just take a beat. I think sometimes with living a more intentional life, one of the things I didn't really anticipate, and now I realize is so true, is you need the space to reflect and connect and recenter so that you can see things like that long game. So often the stuff that we don't want to deal with or the pains in the butt of our modern life, it comes down to a short-term pain for a long-term gain. And when you give yourself the space and the energy to be able to consider those things, you start to realize oh, wow, there's actually a lot more in my direct and immediate control than I thought. And now I get to choose. And now because I'm choosing, even if I'm choosing to do the same crappy thing, it just hits so differently. And you can honor that struggle. I love that phrase, honor the struggle. It's I like that phrase, and I like the struggle is guaranteed, but success isn't.
Yes.
And that's such a beautiful reminder too, because I think one of the ways that we get twisted up about the whole intentional living thing, because if you ask somebody straight up on the street or in a coaching session, are you living intentionally? Scale of 1 to 10. On average, you're going to hear 8. Most people think that they are.
Right.
But that same person might confuse intention with certainty.
Correct.
So, I'm certain that if I stick with this path, or I'm certain that if I do this thing, then I'm going to get what I ultimately want. And that is not the same thing, I don't think. So then when they encounter the lack of success or the additional struggle they weren't anticipating, then intentionality flies out the window really fast. We default back to our patterns.
Yes. And I love that distinction, intentionality and certainty. Love it.
Yeah.
I agree. There's a difference there. Yeah. Love it. My gosh. Okay. So the things that stood out to me about intention is really gaining clarity, tapping into who am I? Who do I want to be? What is important to me? Getting clear about that so that you can get more intentional with your time, whether you're wanting to start a new business, a new venture, change jobs, change your relationships, change the relationship you have with yourself as well as others. And then I wrote down alignment. So really identifying what does get me into alignment with all those things, with the person I want to be, the relationships that I want to have, the career that I want to have, and the future. Like, what future do I want to have? And to get in alignment so that will happen. That's what I'm gathering from you, Amanda. Yeah.
Agreed. Yes, all the way. And I think like something that people don't always get until they start to get it is handling the disappointment
Oh,
when you set a good intention and it doesn't work out. So you don't really brought it up for me is when you were mentioning like relationships, for example.
yeah.
How many people have you talked to over the years? I know I've definitely had this experience even personally where you have such a good intention for like where your relationship's going to go. Maybe it's like in your marriage or with your kids or with your friends, or maybe there's somebody that you're super excited to connect with. And you're like, great intention. Actually, business owners, right? Maybe you've got this great intention, of somebody's going to be there, going to be your next customer. You're so excited. They're going to be your next customer. And like, so you have this great intention for the relationship, but then there's a misunderstanding or a
Right.
miscommunication or a ball gets dropped or you got so excited, you forgot to ask what they were excited about. Right. And like these things happen. And I love thinking about relationships because relationships in particular can be so messy when it comes to having intention because most people do live in this like reactive responding kind of a place.
Sure.
And so the power of attention is that you get to know your reasons that you are doing what you're doing. You might have people who disagree with your actions or the things that you do or do not do.
Right.
And like that is certain. That's going to come up. And so what's helped me a lot as I've become an entrepreneur is like, because some people like they don't like certain kinds of marketing or they don't agree with your perspective or the things that you do. I've had people have taken issue with my hair, which I don't understand, but it can happen. And if you just know the reason you're doing this stuff, what your intention was, you can recover from almost anything. And I think it's especially as important in relationships.
Yes. So good. When you know your intention. Yes. And that's going back to having clarity and staying true to your heart and true to who you are.
Exactly.
Love it. So good, Amanda. I'm so glad you came today and chatted with us about intention and intention for one's life. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Awesome, everybody. Well, thanks for tuning in to Candid Coach Conversations. Remember to live life fully and enjoy every moment. We'll see you soon.